What was that conversation like when you go home? Yo, my Dukes, Pops, I need to talk to y'all. I dropped out of college. I don't want to be here no more.
Those initial thoughts of like what will happen if this doesn't work out, or what if people know about it and it just doesn't turn out right. Now everyone's gonna know that I failed. But that's just something that comes with the process of starting a business. And I'm starting to do like my first bit of marketing, where I made that first video that got like 100K views.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
What was that like when you see, because that was organic. You didn't pay, talk about it yesterday, you didn't pay ads for that. When you kept seeing the views go up and go up and go up, what was going through your mind? Yeah.
And so this was just me, like, inside and outside of business. I like to push the boundaries of what I fear.
Welcome back to another episode of the Champions Club with Selah Brooks. You know I'm your host. I am here with my homie Christian. He's the owner of the Backspin Lounge. It's a ping pong lounge in Crown Point. And today we just have a really good story about putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, facing your fears, and really just the hustle and grind of him is just so amazing. So I know y'all gonna get a lot of value out of this conversation. My dog,
Yeah,
man,
thanks for having me.
All right, so to be real, this is actually our second shoot. We did a episode yesterday. We podcasted our life away, and I didn't hit the record button.
Yeah, quite unfortunate because it really was a good conversation.
Man, what?
We'll make up for it today.
So I believe what's nice come twice. You see what I'm saying? So like, if two people can get together and they can have one great conversation,
Why can't we do it again?
we can do it again. We gonna run it back and spin a block, right? So, but before we get to the show, y'all know how we do. All right. So, you got to speak things into existence. One day, this show is going to be sponsored by Jarritos, your favorite soda from Mexico. So they got 13 different fruiticious and delicious flavors, and I love them all. So today's flavor of the day is strawberry. Man, delicious. So the next time you're at your favorite Mexican joint, make sure you grab a Jarrito, because Jarritos are the official drink of tacos. Yeah, man. I love doing that. It's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll
It's
one
gonna
day.
happen.
One day.
So, now also, at the time that we're recording this new episode, it's still in the season of Valentine's Day. So, again, man, shout out to my wife. I love you. The Champions Club podcast would not even be a thing if it wasn't for you. So, happy Valentine's Day. She literally came up with the name. She set up this whole studio for me so I don't have to do a mobile podcast. So, this episode is dedicated to you, girl. Anybody that you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I don't really have a significant other at the moment, but my family keeps me grounded. They support me in every decision I make. So if it wasn't for them, then I wouldn't be who I am today. So I greatly love and appreciate them.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Christian's family, man. All right. So we about to get into the conversation, man. So first off, you started the backspin, right? And when you decided that this was the route that you wanted to take, like, was there fear? Was there any doubt? Or did you just dive right in and say, hey, man, let's just get to it and get busy?
Yeah, no, it's a good question because I feel like a lot of people do feel those, the fear of anxiety, or like the fear of like what happens if this won't work. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't have that, because that's exactly what happened, I'm no different than anybody else who wants to start a business. And we had those fears going into it. We didn't know if it was going to work. And we just decided to just face them because, but yeah. Sorry, I was going to say like I said before, but.
No, it's all good, bro. Like you said before, straight up, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just restart.
Okay.
But yeah, so I would say I definitely had a lot of fear going into it, just like, no different than anyone else who wants to start a business. Those initial thoughts of like what will happen if this doesn't work out, or, what if, people know about it and it just doesn't turn out right. Now everyone's going to know that I failed. But that's just something that comes with the process of starting a business and trying something new. Yeah. At the end of the day, we chose something that was a little more niche, something that was a little more out there, not like, everyone has to eat every single day, but not everyone's going to want to go and play every single day at a ping pong lounge. So that in itself was a risk that I was taking. Just the idea itself was newer, especially like there wasn't anything like it in our area specifically.
Yeah.
So to know that it was going to work, we didn't know. But, I'm sitting there with my dad, and, we're just going back and forth on whether or not we should start this or not. And eventually just came down to the decision that, why are we just going to sit and wait on this? Like, the longer we think about it, the longer we just consider, like, why why haven't we done this a while ago? Because this was a process. We had started thinking about this idea for like over a year, and it wasn't until the end of that year of like of the thought process that we were like, let's just run with it.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just came down to timing, and being grateful that me and my dad are on like the same page mentally about things.
Yeah.
That like when he's like, all right, are you 100% in? And I'm like, yeah, are you? And he's like, yeah.
Let's get it.
And then just like, let's get into it. And
Yeah.
then those fears are like, they're still there, of course. I still get those thoughts, but that voice is now quieter.
So a lot of people would tell you never, ever, 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 ever go into business with friends and family. And it sounds like to me that your dad is actually both. He's like your friend and he's family. So what's that dynamic like, bro? Is like is it weird? Is it like a thing where you guys are in sync with each other and stuff like that? But like, what's the dynamic in going in business with your dad?
Yeah, no, that's like a pretty taboo because there
Yeah.
is that saying that you shouldn't go into business with your friends or family, and I mean to a degree there is some truth to it. It can
Yeah.
get like a little weird in certain decisions in terms of money and splitting, but I think when you're with someone that's open and honest and you know them very well and you have a very open connection where you can criticize each other openly
Yeah.
and it not be taken a wrong way where there's grudges or someone walks off mad, angry. I mean that's never happened with me and my father. We always
Yeah.
discuss things even if it's uncomfortable, even though it might be difficult to discuss certain topics. Even outside of business, we were already like that in terms of personal decisions and ideas. So it just came down to the fact that my father's just an extraordinary individual. Not saying that this can't be replicated. I think you
Right.
should go into business with your family as long as you know that person really well. It's not like that distant cousin that you feel a little weird about, but he just so happens to be in that same business field mind. But then it may not work out because you guys are butting heads all the time, and you
Yeah.
don't know how to like get around that because he's family, and then
Right.
you got other family members chiming in. So I think the dynamic of my dad being who he was, also remnants of who he was being raised in me growing up. Finally, when I matured into an adult that making my own decisions,
Yeah.
I kind of like really respected, and I already had a good, respectful, and mature relationship with my father, so that when it came down to wanting to start this business, it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Especially because this would be the second business now that would be going into, as the first business we do, lighting and decor downtown Chicago. So I already had experience with working with him, and that trust, we slowly built that trust because that's not, although I've known my dad,
Yeah,
for a
straight
while,
up.
right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Your entire
Yeah,
life.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
right.
It's like even though I've known him for so long, there definitely has to be certain relationships built in terms of like business, right? So like I have that father son relationship, but now I need to be that partner son and take that father and son outside of the business, right?
Right.
So when I'm sitting there with him, I'm talking as an equal, not as like, oh, this is my dad. Like let me make sure that
Yeah.
I'm saying the right things. Obviously I'm courteous, but I mean in terms of working with him, it's a lot more fluid because I can be open and criticize him. He can criticize me.
Right.
I can openly say like, oh, I don't like that idea. He'll be like, I don't know about that idea that you just said. So I think it works pretty well. I think it just depends though. Like you just really have to know who you're working with, and that's anybody. Friends, family.
Yeah.
You just got to build that trust, that bond.
I think that's really one is really mature to both of you. It's really wise that you guys can navigate different settings of the relationship because the reason why a lot of people want to go in business with their family is because they trust that person in their family, right? But there's a difference between family trust and then business trust, right? Like as a family, I know you're not gonna stab me in the back, but when it comes to business trust, are you gonna match my energy? Are you also gonna go 100%? Are you gonna do the things that you say you're gonna do? Are we gonna be honest with each other and open with each other? And the fact that you two can navigate that and kind of take emotions out of it, and keep the main thing for the common goal of the both of you, that's really dope, bro. Because I tell you right now, man, ain't no way in hell I'm going to business with my family members. We ain't, man. We can't even play Monopoly. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And sit down and be civilized because you done landed on Park Place. Now I want to beat the brakes off you. You don't want to pay me no rent. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we ain't going into business together, right? But you guys doing that, bro. I think that's super dope. And another thing that I want to point out, you're 22. So for the young entrepreneurs out there watching, what is it like being a 22-year-old entrepreneur and also knowing that like you have a different path than a lot of your friends? Like, I mean, a lot of people are not going to do what we do. And so sometimes it might seem lonely, like you out here trying to make money and they're over there busting down the Madden or the Call of Duty or whatever. So like, what is it like just being 22, running a business and being an entrepreneur?
I'll be honest. It's honestly a really big struggle. That loneliness you talk about, like, and it's not loneliness as in like, oh, like I can't get into a
Yeah.
romantic relationship, or I don't have any friends. Like, I
Yeah.
still hang out with my friends. I can still get into a romantic relationship if I want. It's just I feel lonely in the sense of like my path, my journey, right? Like when you go to college, everyone's on the same path. Finish
True.
school, right? Get good grades. But when you decide to take a path that's a lot of people don't take,
Yeah.
you can feel that career loneliness. And that's where I feel like, because I really don't know what I want to do yet. Like, I have like an idea of where I'm headed,
Right.
but exactly like my step-by-step plan of like, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm doing tomorrow, this is what's happening the next week, which is different because when you are in college, you're like, all right, well, I got, midterms next week, and then I got finals in a couple
Yeah.
months after
Yeah.
that. And there's actual progress and laid out steps and plans. But when you're on your own, and especially like you create a business or you're on top of your own self, you have to create those mental goals for yourself, like in your head, because if you don't, then you're gonna lose a lot of time, and then a lot is gonna slip by, because you can start a business in a couple days or you can start a business in a couple months.
True.
And obviously, each business is different, but I just mean like that time management is definitely different when you're outside the scope of it, when it's forced.
Right.
Like, when you're in school, you have those
That
mandatory deadlines. So
straight
that's why
up.
when you're on your own, I have to be on top of myself. And it's extremely difficult because, I'm dealing with the same challenges everyone has, which is like, phone addiction, playing video games. I still do all those things. I still deal with all those struggles. I just have to do my best to not allow it to control me, my emotions, or take a lot of my time, because at the end of the day, it's on me
Yeah.
if I get the thing done that I wanted to get done. And like I said, it is a struggle because some days I don't do those things. Some days I do. Some days I do those things. I think the only thing that's helping me is that I end up tending to do those things rather than doing the things I don't want to do.
Right. So when you say, like with your friends, you still hang out with them. Have you had any friends that had conversations with you like, Christian dog, like we don't hang out as much, you all feel like you always busy. Do you ever get that conversations from your friends, or do they understand like, yeah, man, our past is different, but this still my dog, and whenever you got time, just come kick it with me.
Yeah, no, it's exactly like that. I can't really think of any situation that I was in where they were bringing that up. Honestly,
Yeah.
if anything, they were glad to hear that I was doing something. I think to have like friends that are not progressing or not doing anything with their
Yeah.
lives, you kind of have that like thought of them in the back of your head, like, what is this guy doing? So I never wanted to be. I never wanted that idea to happen to me, right? I never wanted them to be like, ever have that sit down conversation, like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, it's been a few years, and you dropped out of school and you haven't really done anything.
Right.
So I've always been on top of myself, and I always do make time for my friends, though. Like, some days I do decline when I have something going on, but if I have nothing going on, I'll make that time. I'm not going to say you need to cut everybody off. You need to stop hanging out with your friends. You need to spend more time doing your thing. It just comes down to your time management, and I usually save that. I do save that hanging out and stuff for my the weekends, or after I'm done at later at night. I'm like, hey, you guys want to get some food? Yeah, most of the time it's me reaching out, honestly, because I need a break.
Right.
So
You need to decompress,
yeah.
and kind of get your mind off work. You mentioned that like, it's a lonely path, just because your stuff is different, which also led you to say you don't even know what you want to do with your life yet, right? And so, what goes through your mind? Like, you said you know the direction that you headed, but you don't have a step by step process. Could you kind of go a little bit deeper into that? Do you mean like with your business, or maybe it's something outside the business? Are you looking for a different career path, or a different kind of expertise to get into? So like what do you mean by you know where you're going, but you don't have a step by step path?
Yeah, so I knew what I didn't want to do, which was, do something for the rest of my life that I didn't really like or gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean is what I'm trying to find. Like, what do I have that strong passion for? Ever since high school, I was on path to go to school. My parents paid for me to go to a private college preparatory school.
Yeah.
And so I was already geared for college, geared to just pick a degree and go. And honestly, I think that kind of, high school doesn't do a good enough job preparing you for
Hell nah, man.
exploration.
What?
Mainly it's
Right.
exploration. Like, there should be classes where you're just talking about different careers and they're explaining the day-to-day life of someone who's in their 30s doing this. That is exactly like that specifically I think is important, because a lot of people I'm seeing, when even when I graduated, it happened to me, like I'm 18 and you're just supposed to pick a field to study immediately that you're supposed to do the rest of your
With
life.
no background information, no shadowing really or anything. And it just so okay. Let me ask you this. So for me, because we were around the same age, 22, 26. So it's not too far. When I was in school, they pushed everybody to either go to college, do a trade, or go work in a factory. Like they would have factory plant managers come in and talk about, well, it's a great career. We have benefits and da da da. I was sitting here. I was like, man, you don't even look excited to explain what you do. You see what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
probably ain't gonna be there next month, right? So like, cause me, I grew up in the streets, so like, I just had a certain kind of observance over people. I can read certain situations, body language, that kind of stuff. Man, you could tell all these other kids what you want to tell them. He don't even look excited to explain what he do, right? So I'm looking over there and I'm like, okay, I know college ain't for me. Like I'm sitting here at a 2.7 GPA and you telling me you want me to go to college. Slow down, right?
Yeah.
Then I know, man, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't even know how to measure, bro. Like at all. Like I can't read a tape measure, a
Oh, really?
ruler, straight up. Cause I had I got kicked out of a lot of schools growing up. So like a lot of my fundamental like learning is just missing. Like if you say, hey man, measure this,
This carpet? Yeah.
man, I wouldn't know what the hell to tell you. One time I called my wife because I was baking this. I was trying to bake her a cake, but I didn't know how to bake because I can't cook. But then I was like, hey man, what's 11 seconds? She was
What?
she was like, what? You mean 11 seconds? I said, no, like a fraction, 11 seconds. She said, I don't know what the heck you talking about. Send me a picture. I sent her the picture. She said, man, that's 1 and 1/2. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, but the main point I'm trying to get to, bro, is like I felt like unless you were on one of those three, you were fine if you're on one of those three paths, right? So college, trades, or the factory, just go work in the labor and like in the plants. What if you don't fit in one of those categories? I felt like I didn't fit in one of those categories. So when I graduated high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just looked up one day and I was like, bro, I done worked at like almost every business in this town, bro. You know what I mean? And I didn't have a passion. So, and even right now at 26, I feel the same as you. I don't know what I want to do with myself either. But luckily, I found a passion for podcasting and having dope conversations like this. I found a passion for, creating content. And some people would say that that's crazy because you can't make money off that right away. But I believe it, bro. If you're passionate about it, do it every single day for free because you're not going to care if you're not making any money, right? And then one day you look up and then your life did change. So what's your perspective on like when you said they don't prepare you enough? Is it because you felt like you had that entrepreneurial kind of mindset and you didn't fit in those categories, or they literally didn't prepare people for any of that stuff, like for any of those categories
Yeah,
coming out of
yeah.
school? Yeah.
No, that's a good question. I think they prepare you in terms of like giving you college level classes. I mean, especially where I went, like it was mainly a college preparatory school, so there was really no talk of trades or factory work at all. It was just straight like
Even in high
college.
school?
Yeah, this was high school.
Oh,
Yeah,
straight up.
yeah.
Okay.
No, like I said, this high school is different than like it was a private school. It wasn't like a public school. So their main thing is like to have 99% of all students go to college, which is something they boast about. Which makes sense. Especially if you're paying for that kind of education, you want to at
Straight
least
up.
guarantee that your kid will at least have the opportunity to go
Yeah.
if they so decide. But see, and this was just something that was at my school. There just wasn't any talk of like outside, like what you could possibly do outside of that. There was no talk of that. It was like that's like the only option. And so I'm on YouTube and I'm seeing the social media side and I'm seeing all these businesses, and also having a father who's an entrepreneur as well, who didn't even use his degree to run the business that supports our family. How he puts food on the table, and he has all this freedom. Like when he was working, when he was using his degree to put food on the table, I never saw him because by the time I woke up, he was leaving for work. And by the time I got home, he was just getting, like, by the time I was going to bed, he was already getting home. So I could tell that, like, that freedom of having that business really was financial freedom, but it was also, like, mental clarity,
Yeah.
being able to see your kids more, being able to spend time with us, watch us grow up. I mean, that trade off alone was way better than, in his head, probably even going to school.
Yeah.
And so me seeing all this, I'm like, why do I even want to go to school? Like, especially towards the end of my high school days, I was kind of fed up with school. Now I know everyone gets the senioritis and they just want to like get it over with,
Yeah, straight up.
but I'm talking about in terms of like I didn't want to do school anymore. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to do the tests, the grading. Like I'm there, they're teaching me things that I don't care to learn. I want to learn, about other things. I want to explore other facets other than just like math, science, and English.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they didn't really have many classes for exploration of other careers, other ideas, other fields. And so because of that, I was kind of lost, mentally. I was like, yeah, I have a good GPA. I took all AP classes. Like I was geared for
Oh,
school,
you
right?
one of those. So you went to a private school and then you took AP classes. So you was one of those smart kids.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I would just say I tried. Like, I really tried. Like,
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
took advantage of it. I wouldn't even say I'm that smart. I just like, I really just, I put my books down. I was a person that had to study to perform well. I wasn't just like, I'm sitting there and I'm gonna get A regardless, right?
Yeah.
There was kids like that, but I
Yeah.
wasn't one of them.
Okay.
I
All
was the
right.
one struggling. Although I was in AP classes, I was still getting C's, D's, F's. I was struggling. I was mainly getting
Yeah.
C's in those classes by the end of it.
Hey,
Barely
but see,
struggling.
it's passing.
You see, it's passing, but like
Yeah.
that, I guess like that also started my from a very young age. I was also very like not necessarily raising myself, but in terms of like being on top of myself at an early age. So like
Yeah.
beginning of high school, I was like, this is what I want. This is what I'm going after. Like my parents really didn't put any pressure on me to perform. That was all like my pressure.
So you sounds like you have a real strong sense of self discipline.
Yeah, I'm still working on that in terms of like every arena of my life. Yes,
Yeah.
like I wish I would be in the gym more consistently.
Straight up,
But
I
in
feel
terms
you.
of like having a strong head of like I'm able to see third perspective. Like I know exactly what my faults are. I know what my failures are.
Yeah.
I know what I need to work
That
on.
self awareness.
And
Yeah.
I think that is very key to being an entrepreneur. If you are gonna, it's self guidance.
True.
Because when you choose that career, you choose the 9 to 5 specifically. Someone's your boss.
Yeah.
Someone's telling you what's right, what's wrong, and what to do. But when it's completely on your own, you have to be on top of that. You have to
Yeah.
have that self awareness. It's kind of required. So from a very young age, I actually had like I was dealing with a lot of that stuff, like inside school and outside of school. Everything I was pretty much handling on my own. Not because my parents weren't in my life, but because I wanted to have more control. I didn't want them to have to tell me to study. I just was like, I want to do this because I want to do it,
Right.
and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So my parents never had to get on me for my grades. I mean, sometimes when they saw an F, they'd be like, "Christian, what happened here?" And I'm like, "I studied, I failed. Like, I actually studied.
I
I'm
did
not
the
lying
work."
to you. I actually did do the work.
Yeah.
I just,
Hey, it happens to the
it was
best of
difficult,
us.
right? Yeah, but so if you're from a very young
Yeah.
age, I was very on top of myself. But in terms of like, back to what I was saying, when it came time to go to college, I was like, this is just something I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I felt like it wasn't just a senioritis of like, oh, I'm just done with high school. I want to go to college,
It was
right?
like a genuine.
It was a genuine
Yeah.
school I'm done with. And so, at that time, I was feeling a lot of pressure though, because you got your peers. It's a college preparatory school. People are like, what are you doing? What did your parents pay for this school
Yeah.
for? My parents are telling me the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And like, I would say, although it may seem like I'm rich, I'm not. We're lower middle class. It was a struggle for my parents to afford rent. I mean, not afford rent, but afford tuition there. It was a struggle. So there's sometimes they missed. The school was calling them like, hey, where's the money for this? And they're like, hey, like give me till next week. Like I'm scraping it together. Like my parents just don't have a lot of money in terms of like that, but they worked hard. They
Right.
definitely worked hard, and they made sure they put me and my sister first.
Yeah.
Which definitely went into play when it turns into our character development and who we became, because the only thing we really gained out of going to that school was the environment. The environment is extremely different from public school, especially from having public school friends and like learning about the type of individuals in that school. There is a large separation in terms of like what the school puts up with, in terms of like if you act out, if you even like hit a kid or put your hands on a kid, it's like immediate expulsion. They don't play around. So
Right.
because of that, and not only that, but because the parents are paying for their kids to go there, they're on top of their kids.
Right.
So
Straight
like
up.
no one's acting out. I mean, obviously it's a school. We're still kids, so things do happen. But
Yeah, but it's a different tolerance for certain things. Yeah, what's crazy because when you say that, I'm about to put my kid in private school almost, bro. Because man, I grew up like in Cleveland. The high school that I went to, they built our new high school by a police station because they knew that a lot of us, bro, like we hood kids, bro. Like we in there, we had riots in the school. I'm talking about like riots, like fighting, it was all kind of stuff, bro. Like now we didn't worry about getting shot at school. There was no school shooting because they treated us like prisoners,
Yeah.
But like it was dangerous to go to my school. They knew it. We
Really?
knew it. Yeah, straight up, bro.
Wow.
Like the process to go to school for me, I remember like the first couple months, and we started like in the wintertime. Well, I started in the wintertime, but when we got to school, it's a high school, so it's like a couple hundred kids, maybe 1,000 kids. But we all in a straight line. We walk, we walk through the front door, and we get patted down. We give our book bag to the guard. We walk through the metal detector.
Wow.
They check our bags, and we get sniffed down by the dogs. So like that's one kid. So imagine all of us getting into school, bro. We outside freezing. You know what I'm saying? So like that was my education. And when I got to that school, bro, like the president that was in the books. So like, bro, Obama was the president at the time, right? Guess who was in our books? It was like Daddy Bush and like Baby Bush. So we didn't even have like updated history books, but they're all old and raggedy and missing. It's a whole chapter of China missing from
Really?
world history, like
That's
in our
crazy.
books, bro. Like they rip, yeah, bro. Like we grew up in a hood school, so like when I tell people like, yeah, man, I don't know how to measure, I don't know how to write in cursive, it's like, yeah, bro, because they didn't. Not only did I get kicked out a lot, but when we was in there, we generally didn't learn nothing.
Yeah, no, there really
Yeah.
is that big difference. That separation from the public and private schools. Like, I can't remember a single fight. You know, like
Straight up,
like
all
they
4 years.
Yeah, no, seriously, all 4 years,
Yeah.
like we never had metal detectors. We did have police there,
Right.
just for the safety of the
Safety,
students,
yeah.
but there was never like checking bags. There was never any drug problems. Like, I mean, if anything, the most of it was just kids vaping in the bathroom. But
Right.
but that was only like a few kids. Like
Yeah.
that was only like, and you knew them, like, cause it was a small school too. Like there was like
Right.
maybe 400 people, the whole school, not even just my grade. So like everybody knows everything. But yeah, so back to what I was saying in terms of like, when I'm a senior, like I'm getting all this pressure to go to school,
Straight up.
and I kind of just didn't want to. Like I had this new mindset of like, this is not what I want to do. I feel like this is kind of just shaping me into the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I kind of just didn't want to go, and I kind of made that decision that I wasn't gonna go. But the constant pressure, my parents telling me I need to go, like I felt like I was doing something wrong.
Right.
Like I said, it was still my decision to go to school, which I ended up making. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna apply. Let's go. So I applied to DePaul University in Chicago. I got in. They gave me a scholarship. So I went, and after the first month there, taking my classes, I moved into the dorm, and like the first week, I'm literally about to go sleep in my dorm for like the first few nights, and I'm just like, there's no way, like this is what the next 4 years are gonna be like, and I'm just like, there's no way I'm making it. Not in terms of because I couldn't do it, but
Yeah.
just because I didn't want to.
So your parents, they worked hard to put you through public school, and you got that opportunity to go to college. Obviously, that's a route that they will want you to take, right? A lot of times when parents work hard, they want to do something for them kids that maybe that they didn't do for themselves, to just go to college or whatever. What was that conversation like when you go home? Yo, my Dukes, pops, I need to talk to y'all. I dropped out of college. I don't want to be here no more, and I don't want to do school. What was that conversation like?
Yeah, it was a struggle specifically because my parents went to school.
Yeah.
So in their head, and especially because they have like a bunch of siblings that they were the only ones out of their family to go to school, right? And to kind of develop more of a career, like in terms of like using that degree to get a better job, a higher paying job. Right. And so because they did that, they felt like that was the only way, because they're seeing people all around them. Their environment is everyone around me who didn't go didn't end up like close
Yeah.
to where I'm at. Right.
Right.
And so because of that, they're in their head, they're like, our son, if, or like, they're probably thinking their kids, if they don't go to school, that he's just going to work at some factory job. Right. And that'll be the rest of his life. He'll just live in the same town in a tiny, barely making it. Like, and so I think my parents like really saw that I didn't want to go, and they took that as a negative. They didn't really see that like I could be ambitious, or that like I could figure something outside. But it's not something that I blame them for, because when you are in that environment where the only people who are
Yeah.
like making something of like a stronger career are people who go to school, then I can definitely see that fear of like, oh, he doesn't want to go to school, like
What the heck?
he's gonna end up like
Yeah.
my brother or something, right?
Yeah.
And so I definitely understand that, and I don't blame them for that pressure they put on me. And honestly, my dad kind of was like on the other side of it. He understood, like he's He's like, how could I, like, after a while, after he realized, because my mom was putting pressure on him to tell me to go
Yeah,
to
yeah.
school.
If moms
Yeah.
tell him to tell you, he gonna tell you. That's
Yeah,
how it
right.
works, straight up.
And then
Yeah.
so like a months go by of this like back and forth argument. It was like actual arguments. Like they're dropping me off to work at Chick-fil-A because I was working at Chick-fil-A at the
And
time.
then I bet
Yeah,
that.
and then I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to go to school. And like she was like, all right, so
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? And then she's yelling at my dad to like chime in on it. And my dad like after further thought, he's like, but this isn't something he wants to do. Like, and how is it fair for me to say that he should go to school when I have a business? I feed this family with a business that he
Yeah.
didn't require my degree at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
He was like, I just bought some lights and that turned into, I started renting them out. That turned into a bigger and bigger business. He was like, so how am I going to sit here and tell him that he needs to go to school to make something out of himself? And so my mom was not on board right away.
Right.
It took months of him convincing her like, hey, like lay off the pressure. Like, this may not turn out well for him if we keep putting pressure on him. And, it wasn't towards the end. Like I already had applied. I was already like en route to going, that they were both finally like, you know what, Christian, if you decide to back out right now, we'll support you, whatever you want to do. Like they finally turned that around into like full love and support, which I'm
Yeah.
grateful for, that they were able to remain open minded. If, like I said, it was mainly that rock of my dad of like, he's always been super open minded, very calm at all times. So because he's always able to sit there and listen, whether it may be uncomfortable or comfortable, he's always able to give his best thought and foot
Yeah.
forward.
And
And
process the
because of that, he
information.
was
Yeah.
able to develop my mom into changing her mind about like there's other routes, like
Right.
just because I'm not going to school doesn't mean I'm gonna just end up a failure,
Yeah.
being at home bumming at it, bumming at their crib
Right. Right. Straight
all
up. Yeah.
5 years of my life. I mean the next 5 years of my life. But so yeah, like it took some time
Yeah.
for my parents to get there, but I actually did go to school. I still went with it because I was already like, I already had, my mind was one way, and then all the the people get in my head, I kind of allowed it to get in my head. And so then at that point, because I was also mentally weak at the time, I'm not who I am today. That's not who I was in high
Yeah.
school.
And
uh,
that's normal.
I was definitely more malleable to people's thoughts and opinions. I really cared about what people thought. And so because of that, moving into college, once I've already made the decision, yeah, I almost felt a little scared because I was like, I made this huge decision. Like I'm going to be racking up debt monthly just for going to class. And, I was just like, I can't do this. So I told my dad one day, we were working a job in Chicago. I met him there because obviously I'm dorming in Chicago at this time. And we have an event at one of the venues down there. And I'm just telling him, I thought he was going to say something like, dude, what are you doing? You already made the decision to go there. That you're there now. We moved you in. But instead he was like, yeah, if you that's what you want to do, Christian, like, I'll back you. Let's get this going. You saying you don't want to go there. You should have just stuck with your gut in the beginning, regardless of what we were trying to tell you. He,
Right.
he even apologized for that. He's like, we're sorry. I'm sorry on behalf of your mother as well, that, we shouldn't have put that much pressure on you. Which, like, to hearing that with like that love and support
Yeah.
really,
Had to feel
honestly,
good.
yeah, it felt good. And it reaffirmed that, like, you know what, I really should just go after what I really want.
Yeah.
And so that's why I dropped out. And it was scary because I dropped out and I didn't even have a plan. Like normally people are like, "Oh, I dropped out and I became a millionaire." Like, they had this plan, but I really didn't. I just knew I didn't want to be in school.
Right. I think that's a good point that you make, because I think this conversation is really gonna inspire a lot of people, but it's gonna be more so targeted to young entrepreneurs. I feel like that's gonna be in the same position as you, and I feel like as parents, when we all don't come from money, and we got to grind and get it out the mud and out the dirt, right? So if we find a path that we found success in, or we find a way to make it, we feel like our kids have to take the same path because that's what they know, right? Like, for example, like my dad, it's almost the same situation, but he didn't go to college. He's a CNC machinist, and he was like, man, I remember when I was getting ready to graduate, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to make money in these factories, son. And I'm like, Dad, I don't want to do that. You feel me? And he's like, well, what do you want to do? I want to be in sales. Man, that he got so angry. You know what I mean? But like, so I just think that if any parents is watching or listening, listen to your kids. And it's not our job as parents to, push them in a certain direction, because really, when parents are gone, then we won't have any guidance or direction. We need to train our kids to guide themselves and say, hey, what decision do you want to make? And what's the pros and cons of these decisions? Let them do the critical thinking for themselves to figure out what they want to do with themselves. Because like, you're not gonna always have your parents around to guide you. Or if you're doing something stupid, they're not gonna say, hey, that's stupid, don't do that. Or they're not gonna tell you what to do. Like, you have to let their kids find their own paths. One, in like making money, But then also, like you said, like your dad said, like listening to themselves and their gut. I think that was one thing that a lot of people mistaken for me. Like they thought I was stubborn, but I'm like, no, I don't know what I want to do. I just know exactly what I don't want to do. That
Exactly.
ain't it. Right? Then what is it? I don't know, but that ain't it. I ain't even don't even talk to me about that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going there. So like even with my dad, he wanted me to go to college. I'm like, Dad, if they not paying 100% tuition for football, I'm not going. Because like what the heck? I don't even like school. The only reason I played football and kept my grades up in school was to play ball. And if it ain't ball, then I'm not going. Right? So I just think shout out to your parents and for like really just being self-aware and understanding like what you were saying, and then like you said, like supporting you with that love, like because like we said yesterday, bro, even if you don't support what I'm doing, like anything that I do and it take off, y'all gonna benefit. You see what I'm saying? Like, bro, if you become like the next freaking Jeff Bezos and you didn't go to college, they're like, bro, my son or she is naive. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
because they're gonna benefit. So shout out to your parents, man, and shout out to you for like just going through that situation and like keeping an open mind, but then also really knowing like that's not for me. Because like we talked yesterday, a lot of my homies right now they dropping out of college. It's probably been like a couple years. Some of them dropped out a year after, and they had to have those tough conversations with their parents. And they were like, well, why didn't you tell us you didn't want to go? Because you put the pressure on them the whole time since they've been babies. Oh, we want you to go to college. And some people don't want to upset their parents. Hey, man, Dad, you going to be mad because I'm about to tell you what you don't
Yeah.
want to hear. But shoot, let's switch gears, man, because we got a lot to get into when it comes to backspin. Because I want people to understand like the entrepreneur journey and getting putting themselves in uncomfortable positions, like you talked about, and facing fears. So you opened up Backspin, dog, and the first day you said like the grand opening wasn't what you expected. Tell me what happened about that. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So let me take it back a few months before we opened. So like the day we opened was June 12th, but
yep,
let's take it back a little
June
bit.
12th, what year?
2025.
Dope.
So yeah,
Okay,
last
last
summer.
year. Okay, yeah.
So we opened up June 12th, but before that, Gearing Up 2 opened up. We had this idea, like I was talking about before.
Yeah.
This idea that we wanted to open up like a social lounge, like a place where people can go and hang out, because there's not something like that in our area. And although that's kind of niche, there's not too much of that around, especially where we are. It was kind of like a grand idea. It was something that like if this works, it could pay off. If it doesn't, then there'll be no one showing up. So basically we had this idea and we are like, let's run with it. We finally like we're on board, let's go. And so one day my dad was eating at Joe Sosimo's Pizza, which is our next door neighbor right now. And he went over and there was this antique shop. So basically they sold like anybody could put their things in there on consignment. So they would pay money to, like, if you collect minifigures, right, or like little action figures, you could put them in there, pay monthly, and the person will sell them for you there, and then you'll get a check at the end of the month for whatever they sell.
Yeah.
So basically, they were moving. They were moving like next door, like not next door, but they were moving like a couple streets away. And so my dad was like, "Oh, like you guys are moving. Like what's your like who's your landlord? Can we get his contact information? Like also, do you mind telling us how much you pay rent?" She was like $3,500, and so that seemed reasonable to him. That was kind of like a light bulb. He was like, is this like a sign for us to like finally do this? Because we had been talking about this idea for over a year, and then
Right.
now finally he just so happens to find a good spot in a good area with
Yeah.
reasonable rent. He was this was like a point in time where we're like, a window just opened up and it's not going to be open for long, because who knows if someone's going to grab this.
Right.
And this idea we've been sitting on, this window could close. You know what I mean? And we could never open this place up. And so I'm like, yeah, and honestly, that's a good point. Like, I also don't want to be, talking in the next few years, like, oh, we should have jumped on that. We shouldn't have let that window close. So that's why we both made the executive decision. One day we were driving to Chicago for an event, and we're just like, you know what, let's do it. So we know that, not to say that there wasn't fear. No, we were still scared. The fear of, like, obviously my dad, uses all of the money he makes from his business to support this family. So being that we were going to have to take from that and to put it into this new business, especially because, like I said, we're not rich by any means. We're not living in luxury. Because of that, it was a little scary. The finances of this doesn't work out. We'll put all this money into it, and we'll have a business that's dying and a business that's barely making it, trying to support the one that's dying, and that would just be a net negative at the end of the day for us financially. So that was a fear, but that kind of it quieted down a little bit once we were both like, you know what, I'm in 100%, you're in 100%, I trust you, you trust me, let's do it.
Right.
So we moved forward. And so we met with the landlord. He was like, all right, you guys are good. I think he just liked us because we had like good, strong moral character. He saw that we were like father-son dynamic. And so, he was like, you guys are good on my end, but you guys need to get approved by the city. So we go to the city and we're like, hey, we want to open up in this location. And they're like, well, actually, this area is only zoned for commercial use only. So basically, what they were saying was that we couldn't put our place there because we're entertainment. And they were like, well, so if you want to open up there, the only way is that you got to like argue in front of the board. Like they're like, you got to talk to the mayor, sit in front of the council, and like tell them why you want to open up and why they should let you rezone. And we're like, all right, that's fine. We'll try it out.
Yeah.
And so we get there. Well, I mean, we're like, all right, set it up. So it takes like a month for them. They're like, your date is a month from now, the meeting like with the council. And so we're like, all right, we'll be there. And so then, we're just like having a cigar one day, and we get an email like, hey, you guys are good. They didn't even really need. They just thought about it for a second. You guys are good. Like, you don't need to go to the meeting.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, wow, like it was it's such a relief, but at the same time, like something new was coming in, which was that fear of like, this is real.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, it's on you.
Now we in it.
Yeah, we're in it now. Like, there's no going back now. So we're moving forward now. Like, so at this point, it's probably about March. When we got approved, and so the landlord was like, all right, come and sign the lease. So we signed the lease, and renovations began because the old tenant had like random paint and weird walls, and so they had to tear those down, remove the paint, and so we finally got the keys to the place probably like early April, and so then we just started moving stuff in, and then now it's March. And I'm starting to do like my first bit of marketing where I made that first video that got like 100K views.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
What was that like when you see, because that was organic. You didn't pay, we talked about it yesterday, you didn't pay ads for that. When you kept seeing the views go up and go up and go up, what was going through your mind?
I was getting excited. I felt like there was progress here. Like, I felt like I could make this, like I'm seeing like there's so many advertisements, not even just paid advertisements, but just like organic marketing that I see for businesses, and it's just like they blow up. And sometimes it's like not even high production. It's not even like crazy mic audio. Sometimes there's no audio. It's just music. But sometimes things just blow up, and people in the comments are like, oh, I gotta check this out. This is in my area, right? And so like I'm starting to see that. Like people in the comments are like, oh, when you guys open up, like, oh, I live in Crown Point. My For You page is getting way too local. Like the amount of people that were saying that, I was feeling good. I was like, there's some progress here. Like we're gonna be okay. Like things are gonna work out. So I made my first few videos. I didn't really do too much marketing. Like I didn't run ads before we opened. So we opened up, and the opening day, June 12th, like just family, friends. And I was so grateful for them to be there. But, like I said yesterday, like they're not going to pay my rent. My family friend's not going to be here tomorrow, for me to charge them again, right? And so like
that's true. That's true.
And so I need that, like that was like a realization. That was an eye opener that like I need to go deeper into the marketing. This needs to be the forefront of my next moves.
Right.
And so because of that, because like I already knew while we were setting and getting the place ready, like we were traveling to different Dick's Sporting Goods to buy the tables on Facebook Marketplace, using the cash we have to buy all the furniture, like trying to only put a certain amount of money on the credit card for the business, and only using a certain amount of our liquid cash, and trying to get good deals the best we can, right? Within budget. And so all that was easy, all like sourcing everything, getting things in there was the easy part. I already knew going into it, the hardest part was going to get people getting in there.
People in the door.
And so, like I said, that day was like a wake up call. So after that, I had to really get on the grind of marketing. So like I actually bought some mics so I can get better audio. I already had a camera, so I just bought like a mic for the camera as well, a tripod.
That video where you holding the mic and you see the cord.
Yeah, I already had that mic.
Oh,
that was my OG mic.
Yeah.
And that was one I used at home, like when I was playing the game. But that's all I had. It was a wired mic. It wasn't wireless. So I was like, but I got to make this work. I need good audio quality, right?
Right.
And so that's what I did. I was literally wearing a backpack, had my camera half opened. I mean, not my camera, but have my laptop half open in the back in my backpack with the cord feeding out of it into the mic, and my dad was holding my phone while I was like talking into the thing.
I thought that was dope. When I seen that, bro, because like before you came on the show, I told you I do a lot of research. My wife actually found you on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, listen, because she was telling me about like just marketing, putting yourself out there, to help my photo booth businesses and stuff like that. And so she was like, check this guy out, and he owns a ping pong lounge in Crown Point. I'm like, straight, yeah, right, bro. I thought you were a full-fledged content creator. I thought it was original. I thought it was really personable. I love how you had your mic. I'm like, oh, bro, because a lot of people they just
The
wireless,
clip on.
but you holding it, and so I'm like, oh, straight, because I'm into content. I'm like, bro, this dude professional, right? And then I watched all the videos, and it wasn't even that many. I was like, oh, snap, I think this dude just started like creating content, and to me, I felt like I knew you before, and this was, yeah, I don't think about it, bro. I think it was sometime last year. So
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
consuming your content since last year, and it's almost real to have you on the podcast now. But like, dude, I just give you a lot of props on just being realistic and putting yourself out there. You talked about how much money it takes to open up a ping pong lounge. You show the journey. You show like the remodeling, like you painting the walls and you guys moving stuff around. Like I seen the empty building and like what it turned into with the red walls. And so it's like when this is going through your mind, did you know the videos that you have to create, or did you just say, hey, I'm gonna take the real stuff and I'm just gonna make that content?
It's a good question. Like in terms of people who are confused about what to do in terms of business marketing,
Yeah.
it's just a copy. Like I see a bunch of videos of like renovation videos or like, time lapses or like we went from this to this and then they do a breakdown. Like I just already had seen so much of this and I've already been like not only a consumer, but I've already been making content in and out of my life for years now. So I already had experience with editing and like you said, like, oh, it seemed like I was a full-fledged creator. Well, that was only because I already had like a lot of experience with how to edit, how to, make cool transitions.
Yeah, I seen the dollar signs falling on one of the videos.
Yeah, yeah,
That
that's
was dope.
green screen effect. Like I
Ah,
already knew
okay.
how to do all that stuff, so just using what I knew. But this is not hard things. I didn't go to school for that. That was just like me at home, like in Premiere. Like how do you put a green screen effect in Premiere? And then 2 minute video, you know how to do it. And
Right.
just like you learn small tools like that in terms of editing. So like if you are a content creator that wants to get better at editing, it's super easy. You just gotta like what you want to do. Just look up a video for it. There's a video for it. But yeah, so in terms of the videos, like how did that feel and what was that like? I kind of just was running with it. I was kind of like I said, I already had seen a bunch of videos of like business marketing. So whenever that creativity, that light bulb like started spinning whenever something new was happening. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to document this, right? So it's like when the renovations are happening, I'm like, I should get some photos and videos. Like, and that's a good thing too. Is like maybe you may not always be recording, like you're not going to know what you want to do with that footage right away.
Right.
But it's always best to have that footage for some B-roll, something to talk over, or just something to show like what's
Yeah.
going on currently. So that's what I was doing. Like in the reservations, I wasn't with my mic and camera yet. I was just with my phone, like just recording like what it looked like before, showing it what it looked like after, showed us like bringing all the equipment in, like taking pictures, so that I could make footage later when I was ready,
Right.
or show like what it looked like before, what it looked like after.
Yeah.
And that kind of just like you keep going, right? You see more business content and you just start copying until you get so creative that you can do your own stuff now. So like I don't really like use examples anymore. I kind of just whatever I feel like would be good and attention grabbing. I kind of just created like a mental spreadsheet of like
Yeah.
step 1, good hook.
Right.
Step 2, you need to explain what the hook just described, and then 3, you
Yeah.
need a good ending, call to action. So I kind of just follow that mental plan in terms of every video I make, and there's thought process in every single video I make. There's a reason,
Yeah, I
different
thought
shots.
as a guy that teaches like content creation, content strategy, different concepts. I thought that shit was brilliant, dog. I ain't even gonna hold you. I was sitting here, I was like, man, this dude is smart as hell. Like I loved the content. I like the call to action. I love the vulnerability of some of it. And I was like, man, this dude is smart as hell. I'm like, man, he getting it. And real quick, it just came to my mind. You talked yesterday about you did a boxing match inside.
Oh yeah, no, I did do
A
that.
boxing match. Did you get any content of that, or
Yeah, no, I
like,
recorded the whole thing on my camera, but so that thing was personal because that was like moving into this new year because I did this boxing match in December of 2025, so literally like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so this was just me like inside and outside of business. I like to push the boundaries of what I fear.
Yeah.
So like starting the business, I was fearful, but I pushed through it. And like this was like the third or fourth business that I had to do that as well, right? And what's funny is that fear doesn't go away. It just the voices get quieter.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
so even in terms of like my hobbies and like I said, I'm not the same person I am today than who I was when I graduated high school, which I'm sure a lot of people could say. But I mean, like I was intentfully working on that.
Yeah.
I knew who I was, and I knew that that's not who I wanted to be, especially when it comes down to becoming a father of my own. I didn't want to be, anything like that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of parts of me that I didn't like, and that needed a lot of discipline. Although I was very aware and on top of myself, like I only knew what was wrong, but I wasn't working on what was wrong. So that was like my part of like between 18 and 22, that maturing, locking in, and just like realizing and working on what was wrong. But so yeah, moving forward then, to answer your question, wait, I forgot. Sorry.
The boxing match.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The
The
boxing
boxing
match.
match.
You wanted to face your fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boxing match was just a part of facing my fears. Like it was something that I've never really gotten into a fight growing up.
Well, I'm gonna say that's understandable because you went to the high school prep thing where you never saw a fight.
Yeah, never gotten into
Never
any
saw a fight.
arguments. Yeah, no fights.
So
Right?
now it's your first time having some confrontation.
Yeah, no, my friend just wanted to fight, not because there was any grudges, but
Yeah.
he's been taking boxing classes at his school in college, and he was just like, I really want to fight someone. I was like, I'll fight you. And
Yeah,
so like
straight
it
up.
kind of turned into a joke. Like it was a joke, but it went serious. I was like, you know what, I'll actually do that if you want. I was like, we'll do it at Backspin, which
Yeah.
is like I'm pretty sure it was illegal, but it is what it is. Like I didn't have an audience there. I didn't pay for anyone to get in there, but
Yeah.
it was a real boxing match. Like
You
there
really
was
got hit.
there was no headgear. We had 12-ounce gloves. We wrapped our hands. We had a referee there, which is my other friend. He just wore a referee shirt. I was like, hey, if it gets too brutal, like I know you're not like a boxing referee, but
Stop
if
the fight.
if it looks bad, one of us is like bleeding or something. I was like, hey, just like pause it for a second.
Yeah, straight
And
up.
so I had him do that. I had a guy there on camera, so he was moving the camera, following. It looked really nice. We had good lighting. We had walkout music.
Man.
But the fighting was real, and
Yeah.
that was like the facing my fear. Like before fighting, I'm like there was a point of like the voices of like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
And the other part was like, that's exactly why I'm doing it, is because I'm questioning it. Like I'm fearful. Like I'm scared to get hit. I'm scared of confrontation. So that was me facing that. And like I
Yeah.
said, I do that in terms of business, and I do that in terms of like personal hobbies. Like that wasn't because of like I said, there was no grudges between me and my friend.
Yeah.
Like we literally hugged it out after that. We got some food after that.
Straight up.
Like there was no like, and
Yeah.
I lost the fight actually. I tapped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hey man, but he take boxing classes. You see
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Bro, in my hood, bro, like we give you credit for even stepping in the ring with dude because man, he take boxing classes.
Yeah, I was at a disadvantage for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you a question, man. So where is Backspin at now? Like, where's the business at now?
Yeah, like it's kind of unfortunate, it's kind of official now that we are closing our doors at the end of this month. And, I know this, like the way I was talking, it made it seem like it's super successful, but, it didn't really work out the way we wanted to. And I don't think there was honestly really too much we could have done. I think the place is definitely lacking, in terms of like food and alcohol, which not saying that we didn't try to get it. We spent a majority of our time trying to get food and alcohol in there. And it just wasn't something that was very feasible because one, we don't have there wasn't a kitchen in the place. We would have to build one, and like I said, money's tight. We
Right.
used all our cash
Right.
to just get all that the furniture and the tables in and the payment processing stuff, like all that, and a lot of all the other cash just went into marketing. Paying for ads to run Facebook ads and Instagram ads so that we could rent the space out or just let people know that we exist in our specific area. So all of our money was being used in the right way, I believe,
Yeah.
with what we had. I'd rather spend the money on marketing of what we do have than try and take that and turn it into a small kitchen and not have money for marketing.
Right.
And so,
because you still gotta get people in the door.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it was difficult. It was a struggle. We tried to open up with the liquor license. That wasn't, feasible. And, we tried to get one while we were open. That it just didn't work. We didn't have the funds. We didn't have the cash or capital. And so that was out of the question. And,
Yeah.
when you have a place that's optional versus something that's required, like, people do eat and drink every single day. They have to eat and drink every day, right?
Right.
But not everyone, finds time to have fun every single day, right? Normally that's saved for the weekends. And obviously, our busier days are the weekends, just like any business. But in terms of like the weekdays, it's slow. And when you're not making money and you're open and your lights are on and,
Yeah.
you still got to pay the rent and your light bill, it's just, we didn't make enough money. I don't think there was a single month where we went positive. And there were months we got close, but that required us to have bands. We had a band, our first band reached out. We're like, can we come play? We're like, all right. They showed up, brought like 40, 50 people. And we were like, wow, we made like probably like $600 in that one night. And we were like, wow, this is the most we've ever made. Like probably the most we've ever made organically with just people coming in the door was like maybe $200 for a single day. But that was like a weekend on a Saturday. Like that was a Saturday in the summer.
Yeah.
And so like now
Yeah.
we're moving into like at that point it was probably like August, and we're like school's about to start, and kids are
And ready
going
to go
back
to
to
school,
college,
yeah.
kids are going back to high school, like where are we gonna make our money, and
Right.
so. And that's exactly what happened. We were only seeing weekend traffic. I mean, even today I have to go open up, and because it's a weekday, I'll get lucky if like 2 or 3 people come in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just at the point where we just can't stay open anymore. And I don't think it's a question of like, are people just unaware of what we are anymore because of the amount of time and money I spent into the ads. Like I was paying so much money to run ads in our local area, different ad creatives, different campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
posting every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Like my sister was on the streets nearby handing out flyers at the Crown Point Center.
Yeah.
And so, we gave away business cards. Like we were doing all these things, and the entry is $10 as well, which I don't think is extreme in terms of pricing at
Right.
all.
Right.
$10 you can stay as long as you want. I think that's reasonable, and
Reasonable
so
for a lot of people. Yeah.
I don't think that was a turn off either. In terms of people are like, all right, well, what about your pricing? What about this and that?
Yeah.
I think we tried to tick every box with what we had, or at
Mm-hmm.
least try,
Mm-hmm.
and. I wouldn't say I gave my 100%. Like, I wasn't desperate. Like, I could have door to door knocked, but, I could have gone down that path. Like, that would be 100%. But I could definitely say I at least gave 75 or 80% of everything that I could
Mm-hmm.
in terms of financial, my time, editing it, making a video every
Right.
single day.
Right.
And it didn't turn out the way it was, but I'm not upset about it. I
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot from opening this business. I matured in the process, and I
Mm-hmm.
did it with my father. It's a core memory that I'll always carry with me to
Straight
share
up.
in the future. We'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about, I'd rather have the story of we tried it and it didn't work out versus,
Yeah.
we're sitting there and we're like, dang, like what if we had taken
Right.
advantage of that open window and just went with it?
Right. You don't want. I would rather sit there knowing the outcome for sure instead of thinking what if.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know. And I'm not gonna lie, bro. I think this is why this podcast is super dope, because even though the business didn't blow up and everything the way you guys wanted to, I believe that um, you have to be a champion in your mindset first before you become a champion in the outcome. So even though this one didn't work out this time, you have a winner's mentality. If you keep that mindset, you're gonna win. It's just like it's just like it has to take time to hit. You have to find something that hits. But I guarantee you can never win without the right mindset in the first place. And so, man, I just give you guys props for like putting yourself in an uncomfortable position, facing your fears, doing something with your dad. Like you said, it's a core memory. And you 22, bro. Like, man, you have so many more years. You're already mature. Man, you talk like you're 40. You see what I'm
That's
saying?
funny.
You have so many more years to mature. And I think that this is what a lot of entrepreneurs need to see, and a lot of young entrepreneurs need to see. It's like, bro, everyone it's not gonna be a hit. Everyone's not gonna be a gold mine. All ideas are great on paper, right? It's some things that you can't predict, dog. Like you can't predict liquor licenses and food. And to be real with you, there's a place here in LaPorte called Family Video, and the only reason they was open was because Marco's Pizza was attached to it, and they had a window where people can go rent DVDs and then come over here and get pizza. We kept that. I was working there. We kept that place open, just off the pizza, bro. You see what I'm saying? Because people would just go there, rent DVDs
While getting their pizza.
while getting their pizza, and that kept that place open for years, dog. Because we already know it's Netflix, Hulu,
Yeah,
Disney Plus,
right.
right? And that was like one of the last, I think, one of the last like physical DVD movie renting places where you can get it physically, like in the nation. And Marco's Pizza, that's not even the best pizza in LaPorte, by the way. That honestly, it tastes like booty. that place kept them open. So like food and drink, that's a big part of it, bro. But I just think that no matter what, man, in my eyes, you and your pops, you guys are champions. You have the right mindset, and you guys are gonna take this learning experience, and then you're gonna turn it into a dub in some other business and another way of life, man. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. But bro, tell people where they can find you, because I know you got a personal YouTube channel, all this other stuff. Because I can tell you, they will not see the last of Christian.
Yeah, no,
Plug yourself, bro.
that is my next business.
Yeah.
It's content creation, and I've always had an affinity for making videos, editing videos, and it was always been a personal hobby, just like editing fan edits. Taking a song and trying to add some cool visuals to it. And so because that's always been a passion of mine, I've always wanted to start YouTube. And so that's like my next thing is that's what I'm focusing on this year is creating a channel and marketing myself. Taking all the things I know about marketing and just applying it to myself.
Yeah. Create that
to,
personal
to
brand,
eventually
bro.
do what you want to do is get sponsors. Sponsored by Jarritos. So I hope that for myself. And so you can find me at Christian Vega on YouTube, and my Instagram is at Christian Vega at Christian.Vega. So if you do want to watch my videos, I just make videos about my finances and like the business I've started and like how to do certain businesses where I actually go like on foot and show you with my camera how to do certain things. Like one of the things I used to do was thrifting, so I took people along the lines of like how to thrift and resell clothes on Depop/eBay. So I'm not really trying to sell anything. This is just for my future self to watch when I'm older, and just for people who can relate.
Straight up, man. Hey, but so we have a thing that we do here. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations, man. Welcome to the Champions
Thank you.
Club. And once a member, always a member, man. And so you most definitely, people have came in that chair and they have shared their wins and they shared their losses as well. And you have a champion's mindset, bro. This is why you made it into the club, because you got to be a champion here before you become a champion with the output. And so, man, thanks again for coming on to the show.
Thanks for
I
having
really,
me.
really appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming back to the show.
Yeah,
You
of
know what I
course.
mean?
Yeah, no
And we
worries.
recorded this time, and man, I'm just excited to see your journey, bro, and see where you take this thing, man. I think you're gonna do some great things, dog.
Thank you very
Straight
much,
up.
man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you got it. All right. We got it.